Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to do a 3-month update on the Turnigy Evolution transmitter. And I've got this in about October of last year, and I've been using it for about 3 months. And I wanted to give you guys an update on some of the things I found out about this radio, some of the things that I think are good, some of the things that I think are bad. And a lot of these things I've kind of talked about in a variety of videos on the Turnigy Evolution playlist. So I'm going to try and sort of pick some of the best ones, some of the more important things that I found out, and give a summary in this video and update any new information that I've discovered since then. So first off, I still like this radio a lot. I've been using it pretty much constantly since I got it, and I've only been using my Tyrannus for certain receivers or certain quads that come with a free Sky receiver or a receiver that doesn't work with this transmitter. Otherwise, I've been using this radio pretty much full time. So for the most part, it's been working out really well. There's a couple things that have been giving me some minor issues. I haven't had any major problems with it. The one thing that I've had in terms of a problem is that my throttle channel wouldn't go all the way to the bottom in terms of the range. So normally you want a range of 1000 to 2000. So 1000 would be the low, 2000 would be the high. And about a month ago I discovered that in the default setting I wasn't able to arm my quads. And I was a little bit befuddled and confused as to why that was happening. And then I plugged in one of my quads into clean flight and noticed that when my throttle stick was all the way down, it was giving a PWM value above 1000. I think it was around 1020 or 1025, something like that. But it was enough where if it's above 1000, you won't be able to arm your quad, even though I arm on a switch. So it wouldn't let me arm. And so what I had to do is I had to go into the menu here. Let me show you where that is. So I went here into the endpoints menu, and on channel 3 on the low end I increased that to 103%. That would then allow me to have a throttle value below 1000, and then everything would arm. So I did try to recalibrate my sticks with that video that I posted on that playlist so that I could get everything to work correctly, but that didn't seem to solve my problem, the recalibration. It would still wouldn't let me go all the way to the bottom, but doing that one little adjustment in the endpoints menu allowed me to get below 1000, and then I can now arm again. I have a feeling that it may have something to do with something sticking inside the gimbal. I'm not 100% sure on that. But that's just the one problem that I've been having. And if you're having that, then you just go into the endpoints menu to adjust that up, which actually lets the value go down on the throttle channel. So just one little tip there. So I do get a lot of questions on what receivers that I should be using with the Turnigy Evolution. The Evolution will work with any receiver that's compatible with the 2nd generation protocol. It's not compatible with anything that uses the 1st generation protocol, and the 2nd generation protocol is also known as the 2A protocol. There's a number of receivers that will work with the 2A protocol. Some of the older ones, like the IA6b, which here I have in my ZMR 250. There it is. I wouldn't recommend using either this or the smaller version of this, which is the IA4b, just because it's so large. I'm using this in the 250 because it has space for this particular receiver. However, if you need to rebind this, it's problematic because you have to use a bind plug, and that is kind of a hassle. Sometimes you might have to, in this case I would have to take this quad apart to be able to do a rebind. Now, I did do a video which is in the Fly Sky Receivers playlist, where I took this receiver here. This is in the B Rotor 130. This is an IA 6b receiver, which is pretty small as you can see here, and I decased it and depinned it. And on top of that, I also, where the bind plug is supposed to go on those pins, I added a momentary switch so that I could just press that button, which is going to be similar to a bind button on, say, a FreeSky receiver. And as long as I'm pressing that while I power it up, it will put the receiver into bind mode, and I could rebind it to my Evolution. However, if you go watch that Rudy video, while this is quite doable, this is actually a fairly small receiver. You get into this little tiny 130 size quad, it's a lot of work, and unless you're very skilled at soldering and taking and depinning stuff, it's not a recommended purchase. So the three receivers that I'm recommending are going to be this one here. This is the Sky X6b Receiver, and it's got the two antennas. I did a review on this already. It does iBus, SBus, PPM. I'm sorry, it does iBus and PPM and PWM, but I would recommend never using PWM on this one. It's pretty small and lightweight. It has a little bind button already here that you can use. So I have this in my GB220. Oh, let me get that. So here's my GB220, and I have it back here on the bottom plate, zip tied. Have a little bit of clear heat shrink wrapped around it, and it works pretty well. And it's easy to rebind to my Evolution if I need to. This little bind button is very accessible from this side over here. It's on this side right there, so it fits pretty well on the bottom plate of this particular quad. And I have it mounted the long way from side to side instead of forward and backwards like you would do for most other receivers. It fits perfectly fine in this frame. So the second receiver I recommend is the one that the Evolution comes with. This is the Turnigy X6b Receiver, and it says the same 2-way protocol. It's got the diversity antennas. It's a two-way receiver, just like the 6b. So it sends telemetry and voltage information back to the transmitter. So one of the advantages of having one of these two receivers is that if you get out of range, the transmitter will beep at you, and you can set up voltage alarms as well. And you'll know if you're connected to these receivers. It has telemetry back, so you know that when you power on your quad, you get a little tone from the transmitter that you're actually connected. So the third receiver that I recommend is this little micro receiver, but this doesn't have that feature where it has telemetry back from this receiver. This is which is known as a one-way receiver, so no information about voltage or receiver strength comes back from the receiver to the transmitter. So you'll never know if you actually have a disconnect, because it already looks like it's disconnected from the radio's perspective. Now the thing about this receiver, while it's really, really good for the micro builds, and pretty much I use it in all my micro builds. Let me just show you a few examples of where I'm using it. So I have it here in the XBL117, and something I want to show is I always have the antenna out the back on all these micro builds, and I haven't had any issues with dropouts with the antenna here. And here's another micro. This is the FatB rebuild. And again, I have the antenna out the back, and I have no issues with dropouts. I don't usually fly this too far away. I usually fly this at parks, 150 meters at the most. But as long as the active part of the antenna here is well exposed and not being blocked by anything, you're not going to have any problems with fail-safes. However, I did test that, and I wanted to share that with you. I have the same receiver in this larger build, and you can't really see it. It's kind of buried there on top of the flight control, and I have the antenna out here and up the top like this. And when I had the antenna kind of up and away from the carbon fiber, I had no issues with fail-safes. However, I wanted to test if I could bury this antenna underneath the PDB here. So I actually flew a flight where I ran this antenna, this active portion, instead of having it up and out, I stuck it underneath the PDB here, which has a lot of electrical noise, and it's probably the worst place to put it. And I did get a failsafe about 100 meters away when I stuck the antenna in there. And so it's buried by it's covered by the PDB, and the other side it's buried by this carbon fiber which blocks all the signals. So I would recommend, if you're using the micro receiver, that you don't bury your antenna inside your frame. You got to, either have it out the back or up really high, somewhere where it's going to easily have the signal from the transmitter. If you're blocking it anyway, obviously you're going to have a problem. And because you only have one antenna, it's a single antenna, not two, not a diversity antenna like on the X6b, there's a more likely a chance that you're going to get a dropout. Now where is that? So what I do for my other ones, this is the IA6c receiver here in my King Kong, and I have the antennas out the back like this, or on the GB220 I have the antennas here up and out off of the back standoff here, like so. And I've never had any fail-safes, and I actually can fly this pretty far. And I did a video on a range test on this particular frame with the X6b receiver. It was actually this particular frame, and I flew it about 450 meters away, and my video went out before I lost signal on my transmitter. So I know that I can go at least 450 meters, which is really far, and further than your 200 milliwatt video transmitter is going to take you reliably. So if you're wondering about the reliability and range of these receivers, the X6b and the IA6c are probably at least 400 meters. And I would say that on the micro receiver here, if you have really good exposure on the antenna, you can probably go about 300 meters. Actually, on my Crusader GT2, I used this receiver, and I was able to fly at a location more than 300 meters without any fail-safes. So I would say at least 300 meters for this one too. So one of the questions that I was getting from a lot of the people out there is, of these receivers, could I get fail-safe to work on PPM? And I've never tested PPM on any of these receivers until I received some comments about fail-safe not working. I did do a test on these two guys, the X6b and IA6c, and fail-safe does work for both of these receivers. You do have to make sure you set the fail-safe in the fail-safe menu. Once you do that, they work totally fine on both iBus and on PPM on both these receivers. On the micro receiver, I am able to get fail-safe to work on iBus, and I was not able to get it to work on PPM. So if anyone out there knows why this doesn't work, or why fail-safe doesn't work on PPM on this receiver, let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious as to what needs to happen. I tried a variety of different things, and I could not get it to work. There was another question I had was on this receiver, why they couldn't get S-Bus to work. And that's because out of the box, by default, it is set up for iBus. And in the manual, it says you have to power it on and then press and hold this bind button while it's already on. And then it will flash, I think, twice, and then they'll switch from iBus mode to S-Bus mode. So if you have a receiver that can't do either iBus or S-Bus, it means you're probably stuck in one of the other modes, and you got to switch it back. So if you go to the product page for this receiver, you can download the manual. It explains the exact procedure on how to switch the modes. However, in my one video where I did look at the iBus versus the S-Bus protocol on the Evolution, I recommend that you basically just use iBus wherever possible, just because in all the receivers that I've tested, all of the endpoints go to exactly 1000 to 2000, and my center is always around 1500 or very, very close. There's sometimes a little bit of jitter, but it's not as bad as on S-Bus. If you have, when I first set up these receivers on S-Bus, I had a lot of I had to make a lot of changes in the transmitter for each individual receiver because the values were just all over the map. So I had to adjust my endpoints and the centering, the sub-trim, just to get it to work. And the disadvantage of that is that then you can't use the infinite models or continually rebind your receivers, because then for each model the endpoints are going to start shifting around. So that's why I recommend using iBus, because then you're going to have consistency across your models. So on my radio, I haven't messed with any of the endpoints other than the throttle, which I make sure that all of them are the same. As long as all of them are the same and you're using iBus, then they're gonna consistently work across all of your quads, which is exactly what I wanted. Now another thing I think that people should be aware of is that if you're using this micro receiver, you can bind as many of these as you want to any of the models in here. There's only 5 models. You can bind them to anyone, and you have to also be aware that if you turn on your transmitter, it doesn't, because it doesn't have any telemetry back from this receiver, it doesn't know that it's connected to this receiver or, say, another receiver. So you can be on any model, not just the one that you bound to, any of the 5 models. And if you turn this on and this is on, they will talk to each other. So you should be aware of that. It's not locked to any of the models. It's locked to the entire transmitter. But if you vary your models in any way, then you're going to have a problem. So just be aware of that. Because if you, for example, bind it to model 5, but then you happen to be on model 3 for some reason, and you turn on your quad, and the arm, for example, the worst case scenario is the arming switch is reversed, you're going to plug it in and it's going to arm right away. So you have to be aware of that. This will work on any of the models as long as it's already bound. So that's something you should be really careful about. Okay, just a couple more things. I found there's a 3D printed part that you can print that'll go in this little slot here if you want to add a neck strap for this transmitter. That's the one thing that I wish that this had, and it's one of the things that I'm going to be printing pretty soon. And I don't have that printed yet, so I can't show it to you, but I'll put a link in the description to that part on Thingiverse. It just goes here, it just comes in the back, has a little hole there for your neck strap to latch onto. And I think that I would prefer to have that, even though it's really light, just that sometimes I like to disarm and catch my quad, and I can't do that if I have to let go of the basically I have to let go of the transmitter to disarm it. And so that's one of the things I used to be able to do with the Trans I can't do with this. So that's why I'm going to get the neck strap thing. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that because this radio is in high demand, it's been out of stock at Hobby King. It's been in and out of stock quite a bit over the last couple of months. And so I would recommend that if you're very serious about buying this radio, just buy it from Hobby King. Put your order in and just wait for it. Like, for example, right now, I think they have mode 1 available, but not mode 2. Now, there is a way to open this up to switch it if you're willing to if you don't want to wait for the mode 2 ones to come out. You could open it up and switch the throttle from one side to the other, and then make the change in the radio too. It's actually not that difficult. But I know that a lot of people are like, okay, well they order it, it's not coming, it's out of stock, and then they cancel their order, and then it comes back in stock later, and then if you cancel your order, then of course whoever's behind you in line is going to get their order bumped up in the queue. So I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about that, and so what I would recommend is if you really want, whatever color, the white or the black in mode 2, put your order in and just wait for it. It probably, hopefully, won't be out of stock for too much longer, and you'll be able to get it pretty soon. But if you just cancel your order and decide later, oh, I really want it, then you're basically back at the end of the line again. And I wouldn't recommend going to some really sketchy sites. Like there's a lot of because of the high demand of this radio, there's a lot of like sort of sketchy sellers on eBay that are trying to sell it. And they're buying these for $70 and they're flipping them for like $200. And if you're willing to pay $200 to give some guy the extra profit, because you absolutely have to have it, that's your choice to make. But I just personally, for me, I wouldn't make that choice. Anyway, guys, I hope you found this video helpful in terms of like if you're trying to decide if you want to get this radio or not. I'm still highly recommending it. It's light. It's very simple, and it does all the things that you need. I don't have any issues with fail-safes or dropouts. It's reliable, and I don't have any issues with the fact that I can only have 5 miles. As I said before, I have a big playlist of videos. I'll put the cards up here in the corner for the Sky receivers and for all the Turnigy Evolution stuff if you guys want more in-depth information about this particular radio and all the things that I've learned in the past. I just wanted to provide an update summary in this video for you guys so that if you're having trouble with a decision, that it'll help you guys make that decision. Now, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll try and help you guys out. I have a lot of time with this radio, so it's probably something that I may have missed in this discussion. I wrote down all the little notes that I had, but it's possible that there's something that I've commented on in the past and may have just missed it for this video. If I did, please remind me, and I'll try and make another update video in maybe another month or a month and a half or so, just to give you an idea of how well this is holding up. So I expect it to hold up pretty well. I haven't had any problems with it, so my expectations are still going to be pretty high for this. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.